Vaush, you've been pretty consistent on supporting the right to own firearms under Marxist theory. However, the prevailing belief among leftists is that guns should be controlled by the state to some degree. Do you think there's a path forward to convince leftists that unfettered ownership of firearms is righteous or at least a necessity?
I think it really depends on where the leftists are. In America, I think most leftists are pro-gun. I think in Europe, most are anti-gun. So it seems like, if anything, the gun issue is more cultural than it is, like, Marxist. I know Marx was pro-gun, but, like, most people were pro-gun 150 years ago, I think. It seemed to be a popular position back then. You know, because everyone was off foraging for your beaver skins back in the day. For me, it's more of a cultural thing. I think that gun ownership is fine. I think there are problems that correlate with it, but I think those problems can be solved in other ways. The issue I have with the whole gun ownership discourse is that here in the US, it is politically impractical to get rid of guns. Impossible, even. And basically no good will come from it. There are hundreds of millions of guns in this country. In this country, I actually agree with the Republicans. If you put bans on guns, you're only going to make them, like, you're only keeping them in the hands of lawful citizens. That does decrease the risk of, say, suicides or crimes of passion against domestic partners and such, but you can make that argument for a lot of other things as well, and it seems like the political backlash to any effort along those lines might not be worth, you know, the actual the actual, like, political capital that you'd take to expend it. God, getting rid of guns in this country, I mean, that would be like an unfathomable, overwhelming task. I mean, you would burn through any possibility of bipartisan support for a century after that, you know? Like, you would just completely destroy... Americans like their guns. It's culturally important to them. So, since getting rid of them is politically inefficacious, let's focus on the things that we can change. Stuff like mental health or cultural affects concerning guns in media and how we treat masculinity, and we can make support networks for domestic abuse victims more available, because a lot of gun murders are done to people in partner violence and stuff like that, you know? I think we can focus on stuff like that, and it's good, it's effective, it's meaningful. But I just don't know what people are talking about when they talk about gun bans. I mean, where the hell do you think that political capital is going to come from? Very unlikely, you know?
So I know that you are generally pro-gun and against, like, blanket gun bans, but when you talk about, like, assault weapons or whatever, do you have any, like, different prescriptions on blanket bans of those specifically, or no?
Yeah, I think I'm more against blanket bans of, quote, assault weapons. They just, like, crime just doesn't seem to be done with them, you know? Like, the vast majority of violent crimes are done with handguns, because they can be concealed. Whereas if you walk anywhere with, like, a rifle, it's pretty obvious that you're carrying, you know? The mass shootings tend to happen with those rifles, but they're a really small, like, percentage of overall gun deaths. And the kind of person who's willing to do a mass shooting or shoot up a school is probably also capable of acquiring the firearms they are looking for one way or another, you know? It's not exactly hard to do straw purchases here in the US, and there are millions of rifles. So even if you, like, ban them, if a person wanted to, like, shoot up a school, they're probably going to die doing that, right? So, like, probably not that much extra effort to go looking around for a straw purchase on Craigslist or something, you know?
Yeah, based, honestly. I agree.
Do you agree that, like, more firearm availability in the house generally means more suicide, more homicide?
Yes.
Okay. So, but you want to, like, maintain guns as, like, a way to protect against tyranny, right?
I think that because we already have guns here in this country now, I think that their ownership can be employed in a more reasonable and meaningful way. If guns are to be generally available in this country, yes, I think that leftists should have them, certainly. Liberals, too. But I don't think that's the principal reason why I'm opposed to gun bans in this country. More because it's politically inefficacious, and it would sap what might otherwise be an effective sort of legislative term.
Sure. I mean, blanket bans are probably unefficacious. I think, like, it's only like 30% of people want to overturn the Second Amendment. So yeah, definitely. Though a lot of pretty extreme gun control has, like, total support. I think people support, like, 60 to 40 taking away guns from people with a diagnosed mental illness. Like, people are kind of crazy for this shit.
Yeah, see, I don't like that one very much.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm not in favor of it all. It's just political efficacy is not always like, I guess more idealistically, what do you think the argument for retaining guns is, if there is one? Like in an ideal society where you don't have to worry about political efficacy, would you maintain widespread household gun ownership?
I guess it depends on how stable I think the society is, you know? In an increasingly destabilizing society, I do think that individuals should own firearms because it's a necessary component to protecting their neighborhoods and warding off bands of marauders looking to, I don't know, eat the squirrels in their neighborhood or something. In a society
Yeah, those
which
are
is
my squirrels.
right, in a society which is perfectly and eternally stable, then I would say no, but given the way the world's been going lately, I don't know. I think it's kind of a responsible thing to hold on to. It's also contextual because I feel like those marauding gun bandits are probably going to happen more frequently here in America than, say, the UK, you know? It's difficult to say because I feel like so much of the reason why I think people should own guns is informed by the fact that people already have guns. I could say we could take away the guns, but how effectively could we do that? Would we just leave them in the hands of people who I want them to have the least? Or would it just be, can I magically snap them all away? If I could, then I suppose, but at that point, I'm not entirely sure whether or not we would have fixed the underlying problems that would have led me to defend the political efficacy of guns. It's really tough for me to say. I'm not an evangelist for firearms. I just think a lot of people are irrationally paranoid of them.
Well, let me take your evangelism, or lack thereof, and convert it to librarianism. I've got a solution which will solve all of your concerns about the collapse of society and protecting civilian freedom. It's called the gun library. Don't speak too loudly. The basic idea is, if you think that it's important to have guns for community defense, whether for freedom or the collapse of society, then that's where the gun should be located, in some communal center, communal gun stores, communal gun ownership. And so you need the gun library. You want your gun, you go in with your gun license and you check it out, just like you check out a book. Simple as that.
I don't know why you're laughing. I'm totally okay with that. It would also cut down on suicides.
It's her fault.
Whose fault?
She keeps laughing about the gun library, which is a totally legitimate idea. All I want is everyone to go with their gun license, not speak too loudly. The librarian will shoot you, and check out your guns. Okay,
I call them community armories, but the biggest, a huge chunk of the deaths that you get with firearms are crimes of passion and suicide. Neither of which can happen if it's locked up in an armory, right? I mean, technically, if you want, so, because, like, if anyone wants to kill themselves with a gun, it's super easy to. All you have to do is find a friend, and then you go over to a gun range, and then because you have a friend with you, they'll let you rent a gun, and then you shoot yourself. But it never happens. It never happens. And the only reason for that is because oftentimes the urge to kill yourself is such an immediate and impulsive thing that actually acting on the logical steps to do that is, I mean, by the time you're even in the car, the urge is past, and thank God for that. So yeah, I think the community armories would be a great idea.
Sure. I just wanted to propose it. Like, I guess I see it as possibly the most like radical gun control proposal that's politically feasible, because it would pass like Second Amendment muster. It would pass the muster of like, oh, I need guns to protect my freedoms, or concerns about the collapse of society. But it would like avoid a huge number of the homicides, because like you're talking about, one of the big reasons the United States has a higher rate of homicide is intimate partner violence in the U.S. gets converted to intimate partner homicide. Someone's in a fit of rage, they take the gun and convert what might have been a beating to a killing. And so like I get, yeah.
No, I agree with that. And guns aren't really useful for home defense anyway, as the data goes. So that's not really the operative issue there. The only thing I'd say, though, I think you could probably make a strong argument for personal possession of firearms in one's home if you have a CCW. Or CCL, sorry. I think that there are probably some people in some positions for which like it could be fairly reasonably defended that they could keep a gun at their place. Without it being a threat. Concealed carry license, chat.
Well, it sounds like you have been utterly red-pilled on gun libraries. Okay, Comrade Vaush. That's really all I got for you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. You two take care, okay?
Thank you.
Really quick, before the next person, I actually looked it up because I was curious. And, look, method. We conducted text searches of 63,710 firearm suicides in the 16 states participating in the National Violent Death Reporting System from 2004 to 2015 to identify those occurring at public shooting ranges. results, a total of 118, or 0.18%, occurred at a shooting range. That is incredibly low. Yeah, it seems like just making it so that a person can't get their hands on a gun for like 20 minutes is all it takes to massively decrease the likelihood of suicide by firearm. Like just putting any barrier there, you know? Sorry, just,
100%.
yeah.
No, I mean, that's the entire argument for it. Just making it slightly harder to do is enormous benefits.
Yeah, yeah. Maybe all gun safes should have a 20-minute lock, you know what I mean? Like you punch it in, you turn it, and then it like a little timer beeps down, then after it opens. Save some people.